The wedding that became a nightmare. What kind of woman survives having her wedding destroyed by the man she loves, and returns as someone no alpha can command? Welcome back, dear listener, and if this is your first time here, stay with me. Because this is not just a werewolf story. It is a story about silence, cruelty, and a woman whose strength was mistaken for weakness. And before we begin, if you love emotional, slow-burn werewolf romances filled with pain, destiny, and healing, make sure you subscribe. You won't want to miss what unfolds under this moon. She stood at the center of the ceremonial clearing, hands folded gently in front of her, her heart beating so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. She had never wanted extravagance. Never demanded attention. All she wanted was him. Her wedding dress was simple, soft white fabric that moved like mist when the wind passed through it. Moonflowers were woven into her hair, their faint glow brushing her cheeks with silver light. She looked exactly as she had always been, quiet, gentle, deeply in love. Her eyes searched for him instinctively. The alpha. The man who had chosen her. When their gazes met, her lips curved into a small, hopeful smile. For a moment, the world felt safe. But safety, she would soon learn, was fragile. Around the edges of the clearing, his sisters watched. They did not smile. Whispers passed between them like sharp blades, too soft for words to be caught, but loud enough for their intent to be felt. Their eyes lingered on her dress, her posture, the way she stood beside their brother as though she belonged there. Cold smiles followed. She tried to ignore it. She told herself it was just nerves. That today was sacred. That love would be enough. The ceremony began. The elder spoke of bonds blessed by the moon, of loyalty, of protection. Her heart swelled with every word. This was it. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the moment she would finally belong. Then it happened. At first, it was small. A deliberate step too close. A sharp heel catching fabric. She felt the tug before she heard the sound. Rip. The silence that followed was deafening. Her breath caught as she looked down. The lower half of her dress had torn, white fabric pooling unevenly at her feet. Gasps rippled through the pack. Heat rushed to her face as she tried to gather the cloth with trembling fingers. A soft laugh broke the stillness. Then another. She should have known better, one of the sisters murmured, not even trying to hide her amusement. Clumsy, another added lightly. Is this really alpha material? Her chest tightened. She looked up desperately, past the whispers, past the stares, straight to him. The alpha. Surely he would say something. Surely he would stop this. For one fragile second, she believed he would step forward. He didn't. He stood there in silence. No command. No defense. No hand reaching for hers. The laughter grew louder. Someone spilled ceremonial wine, the dark liquid splashing against the ruined hem of her dress. The stain spread quickly, ugly and unmistakable. Humiliation wrapped around her like chains. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. She could barely hear the elder calling for calm, barely see the faces staring at her, some curious, some entertained, some uncomfortable, but none brave enough to stop it. Her heart broke quietly. Not because of the dress. Not because of the whispers. But because the man she loved had chosen silence. Without a word, she turned and ran. Bare feet hit the cold earth as she fled the clearing, branches tearing at her skin, tears blinding her path. She didn't know where she was going, only that she couldn't stay. Behind her, no footsteps followed. The forest swallowed her whole, shadows closing in as she collapsed beneath towering trees, sobs shaking her fragile frame. Above her, the moon emerged from behind the clouds. Full. Watching. Awake. She didn't know it yet. But something ancient had felt her pain. She didn't know that the moon had just taken notice. Silence hurt more than cruelty. The forest did not comfort her. It only echoed her breathing, uneven, broken, as she curled beneath the ancient trees. The ground was cold, damp with night mist, but she barely felt it. Her chest hurt too much for anything else to matter. She waited. At first, she told herself he would come. That the alpha would realize his mistake, that he would find her and explain, say anything at all. Every snapping twig made her lift her head. Every distant sound tightened her heart. Minutes passed. Then hours. The bond between them throbbed faintly, like a dying ember. She pressed her hand to her chest, willing it to burn brighter, to pull him to her side. It didn't. When dawn crept through the trees, pale and unforgiving, she finally understood. He was not coming. The realization settled quietly, far more painful than the laughter at the ceremony. Cruel words could be endured. Humiliation could be survived. But silence? Silence told her everything she needed to know. Back at the Packlands, the night had ended in celebration, for everyone except her. The sisters-in-law gathered together, wine cups raised, laughter light and victorious. They spoke of the ruined dress, of her tears, of how easily she had broken. She was never fit to stand beside him, one said with a smirk. She ran like she always does, another replied. Weak. No one corrected them. The alpha sat apart from the noise, his expression unreadable. The bond tugged at him faintly, then stilled. He told himself she needed time. That she would return once she calmed down. He did not follow. By the time the sun fully rose, she had already made her choice. She returned to the edge of the Packlands silently, avoiding the clearing, the houses, the places that now felt foreign. She gathered only what she could carry. No goodbyes. No confrontation. If she was unwanted, she would leave with dignity. As she walked, memories followed her like ghosts, the way she had smiled at him that morning, the hope she had carried into the ceremony, the trust she had placed in his silence. Each step away from the pack made her chest ache, but also, lighter. The border loomed ahead, marked by ancient stones worn smooth by time. Beyond it lay unknown territory, dangerous, unmapped, unforgiving. She hesitated only once. Her hand pressed over her heart as the bond tugged weakly, as if asking her to stay. She shook her head softly. I waited, she whispered to the empty air. You didn't come. And then she crossed. The moment her foot touched the other side, the world tilted. A sharp pain tore through her chest, stealing her breath. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed beneath the open sky as moonlight poured down like liquid silver. Her vision blurred. Her body burned, then went cold. Deep inside her, something shifted. Not a roar. Not a scream. A slow, ancient movement, like something stretching after a very long sleep. She gasped, fingers digging into the earth as the moon seemed to pulse above her, brighter than it had ever been before. Then darkness claimed her. Something had stirred within her. The wolf that would not wake. She did not know how long she lay there. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments, cold air against her skin, the ache of hunger twisting her stomach, the distant cry of something wild echoing through the trees. Her eyes fluttered open. The moon was gone. Morning light filtered weakly through unfamiliar branches, and for a terrifying moment, she couldn't remember where she was, or who she was meant to be. Then the pain returned. Every muscle burned as she tried to sit up. Her throat was dry, her limbs heavy, as though the forest itself had pressed its weight into her bones. She pushed herself onto her elbows and immediately regretted it, dizziness washing over her in a wave. She was alone. No pack. No bond pulling her home. No voice in her head reminding her she belonged. She forced herself to stand, leaning against a tree until the world stopped spinning. Each step was a battle, but she moved forward anyway, guided by instinct more than direction. Survival became simple. Find water. Find shelter. Endure. Days blurred together. She drank from streams, ate what she could gather, slept in shallow caves and beneath thick roots when the nights grew too cold. Her body weakened, but her will refused to break. Yet something felt wrong. Wolves were not meant to be this fragile. Even the weakest among them felt the pulse of their wolf, the steady reassurance of power beneath skin. She felt nothing. At night, as she curled into herself and stared at the stars, doubt crept in like frost. Maybe they were right. Maybe she truly was broken. Unmated. Powerless. Unworthy of the bond she had lost. Sleep, when it came, brought no rest. Dreams claimed her instead. She walked through silver mist, barefoot on ground that glowed faintly beneath her steps. A soft light pulsed in the distance, calling to her without words. Whispers brushed against her ears, too gentle to understand, too persistent to ignore. And always, the wolf. It stood at the edge of her vision, massive and still, its fur like woven moonlight. Its eyes followed her wherever she went, ancient and knowing, yet it never moved closer. She reached out to it once. The dream shattered. She woke gasping, heart racing, fingers clenched in the dirt. The presence lingered even after the dream faded, leaving her with the unsettling sense of being watched. Not hunted. Seen. Far away, beyond forest she had never crossed and land she did not know existed, something stirred. A presence old enough to recognize the shift, powerful enough to feel the echo of her pain ripple through the world. It paused, attention turning toward the place where a lone woman struggled beneath the open sky. A thread had been pulled. And it had not gone unnoticed. That night, exhaustion finally claimed her again. The dream returned, stronger this time. The silver light was closer. The whispers clearer, brushing against her mind like breath against skin. Then a voice spoke. Low. Certain. Unyielding. You were never meant to awaken in comfort. She woke with a sharp inhale, the words echoing in her chest as the moon rose once more above the trees. And somewhere beyond her reach, fate had begun to move. The pack that regretted too late. The pack felt wrong without her. No one said it aloud at first. Wolves were proud creatures, admitting absence felt too close to admitting guilt. But the silence she left behind crept into every corner of the territory like an uninvited shadow. The alpha noticed it in small ways. Her place beside him at meals remained untouched. The air around the bond, once faint, easy, had gone unnervingly still. Not broken. Just distant. He told himself she needed time. He told himself she would return once her emotions cooled, once embarrassment faded into reason. She had always been gentle, always forgiving. Surely this would be no different. Then the ache began. It struck without warning, a sharp, sudden pain in his chest that stole his breath mid-step. His hand flew to his heart as he staggered, confusion flashing across his face. The bond. It pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat struggling to continue. For the first time since he had marked her as his chosen mate, fear crept into him. Across the territory, the sisters-in-law felt it too, though they would never admit it aloud. Their laughter faded quickly in the days that followed. Whispers replaced mockery. Glances toward the forest border lingered longer than necessary. She should have come back by now, one muttered, fingers tightening around her cup. What if she tells someone, another asked, voice sharp with unease. They had expected tears. Begging. Shame. They had not expected absence. Strange things began to happen. Hunts failed. Patrols returned empty-handed. A sickness spread through the lower ranks, mild but persistent, leaving wolves restless and irritable. The land itself seemed to resist them, streams running dry, prey vanishing deeper into the woods. The pack elders exchanged worried looks. Something was wrong. Finally, the alpha ordered a search. They followed the bond's pull, weak, flickering, unreliable, out toward the border. Tracks vanished as if the earth had swallowed her whole. No scent lingered long enough to follow. It was as if she had never existed. She crossed, one scout whispered, staring at the ancient stones marking the edge of their land. The alpha's jaw tightened. Crossing the border without protection was dangerous. Everyone knew that. The realization settled heavily on his shoulders, but still, he did not call her name. That night, sleep refused him. When it finally came, it was not rest, it was judgment. Moonlight flooded the clearing in his dream, brighter than any he had ever known. The air thickened, heavy with power, and instinct drove him to his knees before he even understood why. She appeared without sound. The moon goddess. Her presence pressed down on him, ancient and unyielding. He could not lift his gaze. He did not dare. "My lady," he whispered. Silence stretched between them. Then her voice came, soft, distant, infinitely disappointed. "You failed what was sacred." No accusation followed. No explanation. No chance to defend himself. The moonlight dimmed, and she was gone. He woke gasping, heart pounding violently against his ribs, the echo of her words burning deeper than any wound. Outside, the pack slept uneasily. Far beyond their borders, a lone woman dreamed beneath the same moon, unaware that the world she left behind was beginning to unravel. And regret, once awakened, does not fade quietly. Her pain becomes a door. The road beyond the packlands was harsher than she expected. Days passed in a haze of exhaustion and hunger. Her body grew thinner, her steps slower, yet she kept moving, guided by nothing but instinct and the quiet refusal to die. She avoided settlements, wary of strangers and too tired to explain herself. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. She heard the scream just before dusk. It cut through the forest air, sharp, terrified, unmistakably human. Her heart lurched. Without thinking, she turned toward the sound, pushing her aching body faster than it wanted to go. The trees opened into a narrow clearing where a small figure had backed itself against a fallen log. A child. No more than 8, eyes wide with fear, clutching a torn satchel to his chest. Across from him stood a rogue wolf, lean, scarred, eyes burning with hunger. Her instincts screamed at her to run. She didn't. She stepped between them instead. "Go," she whispered to the child without looking back. "Run." The wolf lunged. Pain exploded across her side as claws tore through skin and fabric. She barely felt herself hit the ground, breath ripped from her lungs as the world spun violently. The child's footsteps faded into the trees. Good. Blood pooled beneath her, warm and slick against the earth. Her vision blurred, darkness creeping in at the edges. She could feel life slipping away, slow but certain. Above her, the moon rose. Silver light spilled across the clearing, bathing her blood-stained hands in quiet brilliance. As her pulse weakened, something deep inside her finally stirred, not in anger, not in rage, but in fierce, aching resolve. Not yet. The wolf within her shifted. Not a roar. Not a transformation. Just movement. A slow, deliberate awareness, as if something ancient had opened one eye. Strength surged through her veins, enough to push her body to move, to force herself upright despite the pain. The rogue wolf hesitated, startled by something it could not see. She stood, shaking but unbroken. Her gaze met the creature's, and for one suspended heartbeat, the forest fell utterly silent. Her eyes flashed silver. The wolf whined, backing away before turning and fleeing into the darkness. The light faded. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed once more, breath ragged, heart pounding wildly. Confusion flooded her mind. She stared at her hands, trembling. What had she just done? She didn't feel powerful. She didn't feel awakened. Only, changed. As consciousness slipped again, a single thought echoed through her fading awareness. This was only the beginning. And the door her pain had opened would never fully close again. The truth no one taught her. She drifted in and out of awareness, caught between pain and something softer. The wound at her side burned, then cooled, then burned again. When she finally opened her eyes, she was no longer in the clearing. Mist surrounded her. Not the heavy fog of the forest, but something luminous, silver and slow-moving, like breath made visible. The ground beneath her feet glowed faintly, warm instead of cold. She stood without pain. Without weakness. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with awe. "You are not dreaming," a voice said gently. She turned. An old woman stood a few steps away, draped in pale robes that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her hair fell long and white down her back, her eyes deep and knowing, far older than time itself. "Who are you?" she whispered. The woman smiled, but there was sadness in it. "One who watches," she replied. "One who remembers what was sealed." The mist shifted, and images formed around them, wolves bowing beneath a silver moon, women standing beside alphas not in submission, but in balance. "You carry Luna blood," the woman continued. "Ancient. Rare. Power that does not rise through fury or domination." Her breath caught. "No," she said softly. "I would know. I would have felt it." "You did," the woman replied. "Every time you endured what should have broken you." The images changed. Her standing in silence while others laughed. Her waiting in the forest. Her walking away without rage. Her bleeding beneath the moon so a child could live. "Your power grows through endurance," the woman said. "Through restraint. Through the choice to remain gentle in a world that rewards cruelty." She shook her head, fear creeping into her chest. "Then why did nothing awaken before now?" she asked. "Why was I so empty?" The woman's gaze sharpened. "Because your blood was sealed," she said simply. "Rejection closed what love was meant to open." The word struck deeper than any wound. She lowered her eyes, shame and sorrow twisting together. "If this power awakens fully," she hesitated, "what will I become?" The mist darkened slightly, and the woman's voice softened. "That depends on you." She saw flashes, wolves bowing, land bending, eyes filled with both reverence and fear. "Luna blood can heal," the woman continued. "Or it can unmake. It answers not to rage, but to the heart that carries it." Her hands trembled. "I don't want to become something dangerous," she whispered. The woman stepped closer, resting a hand over her heart. "Then you will not," she said. "Because fear of power is what keeps it gentle." The mist began to fade. As the world around her dissolved, one question rose from her chest, aching, fragile, unguarded. "What if I return," she asked softly, "and he still doesn't choose me?" The woman's eyes held infinite patience. "That," she replied, "is the lesson you have yet to learn." She woke beneath the moon, breath steady, wound sealed but scarred, inside and out. And the truth she carried weighed heavier than any crown. The woman who walked back. She returned at dawn. No horns sounded. No guards were called. No one announced her name. She simply crossed the ancient stones and stepped back onto Pac land as if she had never left, though everything about her said otherwise. She walked slowly, unhurried, her posture straight but relaxed. The wounds she carried were hidden beneath simple traveling clothes, her hair loose down her back. Her face was calm, unreadable, untouched by the desperation that had once lived in her eyes. Wolves looked up as she passed. Conversation stilled. Laughter died mid-breath. Something pressed against them, not fear, not command, but a quiet weight, like standing beneath an open sky just before a storm. Instincts whispered where words could not. "Bow." No one did. Not yet. At the far side of the clearing, the sisters-in-law saw her first. Color drained from their faces. "She's back," one breathed, fingers tightening around her sleeve. "That's impossible," another whispered. "She crossed the border." They watched her walk through the pack as if it belonged to her, not with arrogance, but with certainty. No hesitation. No searching for approval. Panic crept in where triumph once lived. "She looks different," one murmured. What happened to her? The alpha felt it then. A sudden, searing pull in his chest that brought him to a halt. His breath hitched as the bond, dormant, aching, half dead, ignited in a rush so intense it nearly dropped him to the ground. Her presence flooded him. Not the fragile thread he remembered, but something vast and steady, wrapping around him with undeniable force. Alive. He turned slowly, heart pounding. She stood at the edge of the clearing, gaze lifted to meet his. There was no anger in her eyes. No accusation. Just a quiet depth that made his chest ache in ways he did not yet understand. For the first time since the ruined wedding, he felt small. Wolves around them shifted uneasily, instincts warring with pride. The land itself seemed to hold its breath. She took one step forward. The bond surged. His knees gave way. Before he could think, before pride or rank or reason could intervene, his body obeyed something older than authority. He dropped to one knee. The clearing went silent. And none of them understood why. Power that does not shout. The clearing remained silent long after the alpha had dropped to his knee. She did not move toward him. She did not bow. She did not speak. She stood. Calm. Still. The weight of her presence alone shifted the air, heavy with authority yet gentle, like the quiet pull of the moon on the tides. Wolves instinctively stepped aside. The land itself seemed to bend subtly toward her, as if acknowledging a claim long denied. No one breathed too loudly. No one dared speak first. Her eyes swept over the pack, not with accusation, but observation. The sisters-in-law were the first to react. Faces pale, hands twisting nervously in front of him. They approached her slowly, heads bowed. "Forgive us," one whispered, voice trembling. "We." She held up a hand. "No." A single motion, subtle but final, ended their words. Silence fell again. The apology hung in the air, incomplete, suffocating. She did not speak. She did not move. She simply turned her gaze toward the alpha, the bond between them thrumming quietly, insistently, like the pulse of the world itself.
You must
He
help
swallowed
us.
hard.
The blight takes
Pride
everything.
warred with fear in his chest.
Without your strength, Eldoria
Words
will
formed,
fall.
but they felt
I
clumsy
beg-
and inadequate. He began. She tilted her head, expression gentle but unwavering, and waited. He faltered, finally lowering his gaze. He wanted to explain, to justify, to speak before it was too late. "I should have," he whispered. "I should have defended you. I failed. I don't know what to say." Her gaze didn't soften. It didn't harden. It simply held him accountable. And then, in the quietest, most powerful moment, she asked a question that broke through every shield, every pretense, every excuse. "Why were you silent?" The words hung in the air, clear, sharp, impossible to evade. He opened his mouth to answer. The pack leaned in as if the air itself held its breath. She did not flinch. She did not move. She waited. The answer, if it came, would not undo what had been done. It could only illuminate the pain, the choices, the moments lost to hesitation. And for the first time, he realized that silence had been more cruel than any enemy's bite. The apology that comes too late. The clearing was still, as though the world itself held its breath. The alpha knelt before her, pride stripped bare, voice low and rough with emotion he had never let himself show. He began, faltering. "I was afraid. Afraid of failing you. Afraid of losing control. Afraid that." He swallowed, words catching in his throat. "I failed you. I should have protected you. I should have acted, spoken, moved, but I didn't. I stayed silent. I let them humiliate you. I let you run alone into danger." She did not cry. She did not even flinch. The calm in her gaze cut sharper than any accusation. And it hurt him far more than tears ever could. He could feel the bond pulsing beneath the surface, hesitant, waiting, nearly breaking, but not yet gone. He had lost it once through silence. Could he risk losing it again through weakness? Her hands were folded calmly before her. Her body did not tremble. The pack, watching from the edges, felt the tension as tangibly as the heat of the sun. She took a step back, just enough to remind him she was not his to claim, yet. And in that movement, a quiet question formed in her mind: do I return? Or do I leave forever? It was not vengeance she felt. Not pride. Not anger. Only a careful, deliberate weighing of her worth, and whether he had earned even a piece of it. The moon goddess appeared, just a faint shimmer above the treetops, silver light drifting down around them. You have endured, the goddess whispered, voice like the rustle of leaves in the wind. You have suffered. You have grown. The choice is yours. Her gaze flicked upward, catching the light that brushed the clearing. Choice. Everything, the humiliation, the silence, the waiting, culminated here. She looked back at him. His hands shook. His eyes begged forgiveness, begged explanation. But no words could answer the question she carried in her heart. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat. Then opened them, calm, deliberate. The bond, so long alive, pulsing quietly beneath the surface of their connection, began to falter. Not by his failure. Not by chance. But by hers. The bond began to fade, because she had not yet chosen the strength to forgive or walk away. The morning sun spilled softly across the clearing, brushing everything in silver and gold. She walked slowly, deliberately, every step measured. It was not the same woman who had fled her wedding in tears. Nor the woman who had collapsed under the moonlight, powerless and afraid. This woman carried something heavier, and infinitely stronger, than grief or anger. She had learned something vital: forgiveness is not for them. It is for her. The pack had gathered, drawn by whispers of her return, pulled by the unspoken weight of her presence. No one spoke at first. They watched her, hesitant, cautious, aware that the rules had changed without a word being spoken. The sisters-in-law looked down, shame washing over their faces. No apology would escape their lips. None was needed. Their actions had consequences, and she allowed them to feel it, quietly, without spectacle, without cruelty. The pack bowed, not because she demanded it, not because they feared her, but because they knew. The unshakable presence she carried required no words. Respect flowed naturally toward her, instinctively, like the pull of the moon on water. She stopped at the center of the clearing. Her gaze swept over the wolves, settling finally on the alpha. His eyes pleaded, hungry for an explanation, an answer, a chance to make what had been broken right. But she did not move. She did not speak. She did not yield. In that pause, she confronted the truth she had been running from for years. Her fear of love. Her fear that to forgive was to surrender. Her fear that trusting him again would undo the strength she had painstakingly earned. And yet, she felt it too, the faint pull of the bond, persistent and patient, waiting for the choice she had not yet made. She exhaled, letting the weight settle, letting the silence teach both of them what words could not. The alpha stepped closer, hands trembling. "Please," he began. "Say something." But she did not. She stood before him one final time, and did not answer. The clearing held its breath, the wind whispered through the trees, and every wolf in the pack knew she had reclaimed her power. Not through rage. Not through vengeance. But through patience, endurance, and quiet resolve. Her choice was not yet made, but the lesson had been learned. She would decide, on her own terms, when the time came. The Luna who chose herself. The moon hung high, spilling silver across the clearing as she moved. Each step was deliberate, each breath measured. The bond, once fragile and uncertain, hummed faintly beneath her skin, not demanding, not pulling, but waiting. Waiting for her to claim it on her own terms. She stopped in the center of the clearing, lifting her chin. She looked at the alpha, then at the pack around them. This was not the woman who had trembled before their eyes. This was the Luna who had walked through fire, blood, and betrayal, and emerged unbroken. She felt her power fully for the first time. Not a roar. Not a flash of fury. Just presence. Confidence. Control. The alpha watched her, awestruck. He stepped forward cautiously. "I I offer myself, he said, voice low, reverent. Not as your alpha. Not as your ruler. But as the man who belongs to you. She studied him, weighing the sincerity in his gaze. Her heart stirred, not with desperation, but with careful recognition. For years, she had believed her worth came from being chosen, from being protected. Now, she understood, her worth came from herself. She smiled softly, faint, almost imperceptible. It was not a surrender. It was acknowledgement. She reached for him. His hand hovered, trembling slightly, hope and fear tangled together. And then, she stopped. Not out of doubt. Not out of fear. But because the moment was hers alone. Because every choice she had made, every suffering endured, had been for herself first. She let her hand hover just above his, the bond between them alive and pulsing with possibility. And the night held its breath, waiting for her next move. What the moon witnessed. The clearing was bathed in silver light, the moon spilling over every leaf, every branch, every shadow. She stood at its center, calm and radiant. Every step she had taken, the humiliation, the pain, the exile, the endurance, had led to this moment. She looked at him, the alpha, who had once been silent when she needed him most. This time, she did not hesitate. She chose. Not because she needed him. Not because she was afraid to be alone. Not because the bond demanded it. She chose him because she wanted him. Her hand slipped into his. His eyes widened, heart hammering, hope and fear tangled together. I choose you, she whispered, her voice steady, soft as moonlight, carrying every ounce of strength she had earned. The alpha fell to one knee, not as a ruler commanding his mate, but as a man offering his devotion, his heart, his life. I am yours, he said, reverent. Not as your alpha. Not as your king. But as the man who stands with you. Always. The pack watched, silent and reverent. Wolves lowered their heads instinctively, sensing not just the bond of love, but the power of choice and courage. The sisters-in-law stepped forward, humility etched into their expressions. She did not need to speak. Their fear, their awareness of wrongdoing, was enough. From the shadows above, the moon goddess smiled faintly, her silver light caressing the two of them. Cruelty echoes, she whispered through the wind. Silence destroys. Love requires courage. Every wolf in the pack felt it, this was the lesson that would endure beyond words. She leaned into him, finally allowing herself the intimacy of trust, of shared strength. His hand rested over hers, the pulse of their bond steady, mutual, unbroken. She had survived humiliation. She had endured exile. She had embraced her power. And in that moment, under the watchful moon, she understood the truth. She was never weak. She was becoming. The forest, the clearing, the pack, all seemed to exhale in quiet approval. The night embraced them, the moon bearing witness to love chosen freely, courage earned, and power reclaimed. And so their story ended, not with a roar, not with vengeance, but with gentle strength, love earned, and a world forever changed by her presence.